Welcome to the Pennsylvania Case Law Update While You Drive podcast. You give us less than 20 minutes per week, we will make sure you never miss changes in the law. This week's episode is brought to you by the McShane Firm. For nearly 20 years, the attorneys of the McShane Firm have been trusted by our neighbors and our friends to represent them in DUI and criminal law cases.
Thank you for joining us for episode 37 of the Pennsylvania Case Law Update While You Drive podcast. I'm your host, Katie McShane, and today we're covering cases decided between March 3rd, 2021 and March 9th, 2021. There's only one criminal case to discuss this week. However, the links to all of the precedential cases decided this week can be found in the case notes. In the case of Commonwealth v. Arrington, the defendant was charged with involuntary manslaughter, conspiracy to commit involuntary manslaughter, and drug delivery resulting in death. He was convicted at trial. The facts are as follows. The defendant lived in Allegheny County. The decedent and another gentleman who resided in Clarion County drove to the defendant to purchase heroin. After returning home, the decedent ingested the heroin, which was found to be laced with fentanyl, and he was found dead in his home the next day. The defendant was charged with the above crimes in Clarion County. At the time of trial, he filed a motion for change of venue to Allegheny County, as that is where the drug deal occurred. The court denied his motion. The trial proceeded in Clarion County. During the trial, one of the officers was seen having a casual conversation with a juror. The defendant requested that the juror be removed. The juror was questioned as to the nature of his conversation, and it was found to be unrelated to the case, and the juror stated that he could be a fair and impartial juror. He was not removed from the panel. Following his conviction, the defendant filed a timely appeal raising 3 issues. First is whether or not conspiracy to commit involuntary manslaughter is a cognizable offense in Pennsylvania. This is an issue of first impression. Involuntary manslaughter is defined as an act done with a reckless state of mind that causes the victim's death. Recklessness is a conscious disregard of a substantial and unjustifiable risk. To sustain a conviction for conspiracy, the Commonwealth must establish that the defendant entered into an agreement to commit or aid in an unlawful act with another person or persons with a shared criminal intent, and an overt act was done in furtherance of the conspiracy. Conspirators need not contemplate the ultimate crime in order to be charged and convicted of conspiracy to commit that crime. Case law instructs that a defendant may conspire to commit a crime that includes an unintentional death as an element of the offense, so long as the defendant acted with another to intentionally perform the act that resulted in death. Conspirators need not contemplate the ultimate crime in order to be charged and convicted of conspiracy to commit that crime. The conspiracy to commit an overt act binds the conspirators to the foreseeable consequences of the conduct. When a defendant acts with another to intentionally commit an unlawful act characterized by the conscious disregard of a substantial and unjustifiable risk, i.e. a reckless act, that results in a death that was natural and probable result of that act, the defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit involuntary manslaughter. The second issue raised is whether or not the court erred by denying the defendant's motion for a change of venue. Venue in a criminal action properly belongs in a county where either an element of an offense or a required result occurs. Regarding the crime of drug delivery resulting in death, there are 2 principal elements: an intentional conveyance of any controlled substance or counterfeit controlled substance, and death resulting from the use of the conveyed substance. In this case, venue would have been proper in both Allegheny County, where the drugs were delivered, or in Clarion County, where the death occurred. When venue is proper in more than one county, the court must conduct a balancing test. Here, the court considered and balanced all of the relevant facts of the case. It properly concluded that Clarion County was more convenient based on all of the attendant circumstances, such as location of witnesses and other evidence. In his final issue, the defendant argues that the trial court erred when it failed to excuse the juror. There is no per se rule requiring juror disqualification anytime there is ex parte contact between a juror and a witness. Instead, there is a requirement that the defendant show he was prejudiced. A showing of prejudice is unlikely when the contact a witness and juror has is minimal and is not done for the purpose of influencing the mind of the jury. In this case, the witness's role was limited to collecting evidence at the decedent's home and taking a witness statement. He had no role in investigating the defendant's drug dealing. Further, because the court directly questioned the juror and he indicated that he could continue to serve on the jury without being subject to an unconscious bias, there is no error on the part of the trial court for failing to excuse the juror. As all of the defendant's arguments fail, the judgment of the trial court is affirmed. The primary takeaway from this case is that it's now settled in Pennsylvania that you can be convicted of conspiracy to commit an unintentional death in involuntary manslaughter. That's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much again for joining us, and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Pennsylvania Case Law Update While You Drive podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and our YouTube channel to make sure that you are always in the know when it comes to important changes in Pennsylvania case law. We want to thank this week's sponsor, the McShane Firm. The McShane Firm is a central Pennsylvania fixture when it comes to DUI and criminal defense. The attorneys and staff at the McShane Firm believe in good old-fashioned central Pennsylvania values like hard work and straight talking. Give them a call if you or a loved one ever needs help.